Hello and welcome to our reflections on March the 16th, which is my wife's birthday. I won't tell you how old she is, but do you remember those old Heinz baked bean tins used to have a number on? Well, that's a clue. And I want to show you this. It's a rather fine and rather large gravy boat. An exquisite piece of pottery from John Lewis, no less. It's one of my dear wife's birthday presents bought by one of our daughters, along with other things as well. And that links very well with our thoughts for the day. Our reading is from Jeremiah chapter 18, and it's that famous story where God tells Jeremiah the prophet to go to the potter's house and to observe the potter at work. So Jeremiah goes along and he sees the potter working hard on the wheel with some clay, shaping it, fashioning it, much the same as Jeremiah remembers from his call, where God says, I shaped you in the womb, God being like the potter. It will have had all kinds of resonances for Jeremiah. But then he sees the potter frown and to snatch up the pot that he was in the process of making and to bend it all in together and to start again. He uses the same clay, but he reshapes it so that it can become what it's intended to be. There must have been some sort of flaw or mistake in the way in which the clay was being formed. It wouldn't have done very well in the process of firing and being useful. So the potter reshapes it so that it can become proper once again. And Jeremiah the prophet is asked by God, can I not do with Israel what you have seen this potter do with the clay? And that's the prophetic word to the prophet to share with the people, both as a challenge, obviously, for them to become more like what God intends them to do and to be, but also as an encouragement as well. I wonder what you have made of this. I wonder whether you see it as an encouragement, because after all, I suppose the potter could have picked up the clay and sort of thrown it against the wall and stomped off in disgust that the clay wasn't as malleable, as shapeable as he would have wished. But that's not what the potter did. And it gets me thinking again to the retreat that I shared in last week, that I've written about and I've spoken of as well. We were encouraged to think that there were various ways in which we might respond, both as individuals and as churches, to the pandemic. 3 ways in which we could see ourselves and gauge what sort of picture we should form of ourselves. The first one's a rock, as if we're to be the one that never moves, that stays solid when everything else is shifting around us. But that doesn't really seem to fit in with this picture from Jeremiah, does it? The second of the alternative scenarios that our expert was telling us about was to see ourselves as a network of relationships. The picture that was shared with us was of a tree with the branches spreading outwards and Jesus being actually the tree from which everything spreads out, which is a fascinating picture. Our rootedness in the good soil of God's word, and reaching out to the nurturing that the heavens will provide for it, and our network of relationships evolving over time. And that's a good picture. Let's think of ourselves as churches, as indeed people, not just, or not even a building, but the people. Third picture surprised us. It was of a sand dune, one of those wonderful pictures of the sand dunes all sort of flowing like waves on a sea. And the idea behind that picture was that each grain of sand is still used, however the wind blows and the sand dune reforms itself in accordance with the storms of life that come upon it. But each grain of sand is still needed to form that sand dune. It still had a purpose. It still had links with other grains of sand. That seemed to me to speak more into the Jeremiah picture of the clay that's still precious, still forms the pot that will be the vessel in which the fruit of God will be given to the communities. I wonder what picture you have of how we are a work in progress. Charles Wesley wrote a hymn called "Behold the Servant of the Lord," which includes the line, "Mould as thou wilt thy passive clay." Let that be your thought for the day. And are you passive enough? Or is God wanting to shape you differently from what you might be expecting or hoping for? May you have a good day of reflection as we move towards this coming Sunday, Passion Sunday, when we look at the cross on which Jesus himself is formed. Perhaps something that he didn't look forward to in any way, but which was necessary in order that God's goodness may be seen. May God bless you.